While the temperatures are heating up, the political climate in Newfoundland and Labrador is also heating up a little bit. That's a bit of an understatement. Bill Barry is joining us live in studio this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Fred.
As our listeners know, you dropped out of the PC leadership race. A bit of a surprise last Thursday morning, an early morning email. We've read the email to our listeners already, but what brought you to that point where you just, you penned that at 4:18 or typed it? What brought you to that point where you wanted to get out of the race?
Well, I guess I do a lot of my serious thinking usually at quiet times in the morning when I'm not being distracted by anything. If you wonder why the 4:18 thing, but to actually get to that point, it took place over really several weeks. And when in the beginning, I had philosophical issues about what I kind of expected to happen historically in a delegated convention. When I saw the delegated convention and basically delegate selection processes being made before the doors even opened in the room, when I saw pieces of paper that were typed before people went in the room with the names of the delegates on them, that the people that were put in the room, the first 70 that got in, were expected to vote for a pre-selected list already determined before the doors opened. This is something that is not acceptable to me, and I stated this several months ago because Smallwood invented this back 50 years ago, and every party since is after perfecting it a little bit. But that type of process, my campaign group, we approached the other candidate, and we wanted to have a list of televised debates. We wanted to have our debates start in April month. We were kind of pushed back on that issue, that April wasn't a possibility and maybe we can do something with you in May. We asked for 5. They said maybe 3. They would make no commitment to anything. That type of thing, I had 2 meetings arranged with caucus. The first one they canceled. I still had to pay for the room. The second one, at 7 o'clock, everyone was supposed to be there, and at 7 o'clock there was 2 people there besides myself and a guy with me, and a few more, straggled in within the next half hour. 8 cabinet ministers coming out, like a bunch of lemmings, one after the other, and I'm not being critical of Frank, I'm just saying the process brought me to a point that, I was, why am I actually, doing this? And, all I hear since is, well, we need a convention, we need a debate. I would have given you a debate. I was prepared for debate. I was prepared for televised encounter. I'm still prepared for that. Everyone's talking about what they would like to have now. And, around this party, I've been about as popular as a fart in a spacesuit. And here's the issue. I am running for a party that I disagree with a lot of the things that they've done. And you know what? I'm allowed to disagree. I am a conservative. I don't agree with a lot of their policies. I don't agree with a lot of the things that have happened over the last 10 years. I don't agree with the increase in the size of government. I don't agree with the expansion of our debt. I don't agree with an awful lot of the policies of this particular party, and I'm running for it. And you know what? As far as I'm concerned, they can get over themselves. I am allowed to take a position as a candidate, and delegates should be allowed to go into a convention and listen to my views. And delegates should absolutely be allowed to reject Bill Barry. But no system before the process should decide that Bill Barry is irrelevant. And as a candidate, I will demand one thing if I'm in. I will demand respect, and I didn't get it.
So why don't you run for another party or run in another way? If you have these strong views about Newfoundland and Labrador and what should be done, you did, this is your first foray into politics. And I'll ask you that question again in a second, but some of this, as you said in your letter last week, was your own undoing. And that was the comment you made about cabinet ministers and caucus who wouldn't know a bucket of SHI if it came down and hit them over the head.
Correct.
Now that's a pretty rough way to get into a party or to get an invite to begin with. But now, prior to that, though, it had been stated by the former Premier Danny Williams that he would not endorse you in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Well, Fred, I apologize for that comment. That comment wasn't appropriate. I stand by it, by the way. Because somebody said to me, Bill, you should never have retracted that comment. Well, actually, I didn't retract it. I apologize for it. I still stand. When I see things like the garbage collection in Newfoundland, when I see things like the doubling of our debt, when I see things like taking $3.5 billion budgets 10 years ago and being $8 billion budgets now, when I think that we are at a tipping point, when I think that we may push ourselves into financial Armageddon, when I see our budget process in Newfoundland risking the future of Newfoundlanders, when I see us in demographic decline, and I see none of these issues being addressed, I mean, look, yeah, 11 years ago we had a $3.5 billion budget. Our cost of healthcare in Newfoundland now is $3 billion alone. And none of these things are really addressed in an open debate as to how our society is going to deal with it and how our society is going to pay the bills. And to be quite frank with you, I'm sick of politicians running around promising people something, trying to buy people's votes with the people's money. I'm absolutely disgusted. Everybody running around to try and upstage the other person in the other party to say, vote for me, I'll give you more of what you want. It's disingenuous. It's a way to bankrupt our society. It's a way to completely got any respect that any politician should or could ever have, because it's not real.
So why not stay in the race, though, and then at least at the end of the day you say, look, I lost, and this is it, but at least I tried. Or why not run for another party now?
Well, I mean, the issue of running for another party or staying in the race, you know, Fred, there's no problem to have Bill Barry in the race. Not a problem. The PC party need to, come out and make a statement that the delegates are expected to go to the convention with a free and open vote, which is what I asked for the first week I got into this. B, the process itself in terms of delegate selection, hands off by the MHAs. Leave these delegates alone. And don't anybody ever go into a room with a piece of paper with a bunch of delegates listed on it and then tell 70 people who they can vote for and expect Bill Barry to sit alongside and say, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. And go to the convention with an open mind. And give me 5 televised debates, 1 a week from now until the convention. Bring Frank into the room, bring a bunch of talented people in there to ask us tough questions, and throw Dwight Ball in the middle of it if you like. And Bill Barry will be in. But I'm not going to be in to be a patsy for any of this crowd.
Well, we had requested and were granted a debate, and we were going to do it on May 1st, and then the day that we were going to announce that we were doing it was the day that you pulled out of the race. There's a lot of things that a lot of ground we need to cover. Your main issue, though, was with the party and this whole process, that it's predetermined.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why wouldn't I think it's predetermined when, when I see what I'll call the Contact C capsule time release of ministers coming out and saying, I'm for Frank, I'm for Frank, I'm for Frank. And you know what? They can all be for Frank, but they should be for Frank at the delegation. At the convention. They should decide to vote for Frank. It should be a free, open process. The delegates should. When you have all the MHAs come out in each one of their ridings, and the fix is in that this is the chosen candidate and any other candidate is irrelevant, I mean, that just cannot work for any other candidate. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the delegates should be allowed to reject or accept Bill Barry, or reject or accept Frank Coleman, or whoever else is in the process. But up to the point of that convention, you know what you need to have? You need to have open debate. You need to have televised debate. I propose to the party that myself and Frank would meet with the delegates together in rooms and let delegates ask us. I'd like to see televised debates where we meet in different parts of Newfoundland and let the audience ask us questions. Have a real encounter with the real issues. But nobody seems to be interested in that type of encounter. And if we don't have that type of encounter, I'm not interested.
We had asked last week about a source had told us that you had filed a formal complaint with the PC party. I did speak with Tommy Williams, the co-chair of the campaign committee, and he said that it wasn't a formal complaint. It was about, the MHA's hands off, your concerns, and that they had agreed to that.
Well, I mean,
for the delegate selection process.
Well, first of all, it was a formal complaint. It was a formal letter that was written by my campaign manager, and we received a formal reply. And the formal reply was basically, I would characterize it as everything is rosy in the garden. Well, it's not. We didn't make a formal complaint because we thought everything was rosy in the garden. And the other issues that, I mean, I don't want to bring up the Danny thing, but Danny came out and said he was not for Bill Barry, and then the guy who's in charge of the convention is his brother. Is that a conflict of interest? Well, I mean, maybe.
Well, there is the "I'm not my brother's keeper" line as well. I mean, Tommy Williams is his own man, so
yeah.
And he's not.
How would people feel if my brother Jim was the leader, the head of the convention?
Well, there's lots of speculation about this on social media, and that's changed the game as well. I want to ask you very briefly, we've gone for almost 10 minutes now, but about the Frank Coleman issue and the pressure that he's been under over the last few days. You guys have been friends for years, and you had attended those pro-life rallies yourself in the past. You even put out a statement, even though you weren't a leadership candidate, related to that you are for free choice for everybody. Your thoughts on that sort of avenue or road that politics is going down, where people's public beliefs, or personal beliefs rather, are taken into question like that, what Frank has faced, and your own stance on it as well.
Well, obviously people are allowed to believe personally what they want to believe. I was raised a Catholic, and like most Catholics, I did struggle with that issue for a lot of my younger years, but over time, as you grow as an individual, you eventually get to think about the issue, and it became, to me, an issue of freedom of the individual.
But you did attend those rallies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the issue is about the rights, the primary rights of a male or a female to choose. And those primary rights, in my view, are equal, and they shouldn't be exercised by a male against a female or a female against a male. When I look at church-dominated doctrine, which is male-dominated for the last 2,000 years, and it's really about dominance and control over the other sex. I mean, this is what I believe as an individual. And at the end of the day, all self-serving. I completely believe that the primary rights of the individual supersede any other right. And an individual's right to choose is their right to choose. I may disagree with the choice, Fred, but I can never disagree with their right to choose. So a female has a right to choose. And there is a direct correlation between people that are pro-life and wealthy and people that are pro-choice and poor. It's easy to have 7 or 8 or 9 children when you got money. It's hard to have and look after kids if you end up with a pregnancy that's not planned, and you're poor and you can hardly afford to feed yourself. These are really, dramatic personal issues for young women in today's world. And nobody, no free open thinker can ever say they don't have the right to choose. You may disagree with their choice, but you can never restrict their right to choose.
Okay. We could talk about that all day, I'm sure. But in the meantime, I want to go back to the political side of things very briefly to wrap things up. You seem passionate. You're angry about this, obviously. But why not stay at least in the game? Because you can't change it unless you're in it.
Well, Fred, the PC party, if I'm a valuable candidate to them, which apparently I wasn't, but maybe I am, maybe the population of Newfoundland think that, there actually, to be a race, you actually might possibly need 2 candidates. I mean, that is almost, a foregone conclusion. Do I want to be a candidate for this job? Absolutely. Do I want not to be in the race? No, I don't want to be. But I'm not going to be in the race on everybody else's terms other than mine.
Would you consider re-entering if there was an opportunity?
Fred, as long as the party states that the delegates are free to go to the convention and not be influenced beforehand, as long as the MHAs keep hands off of these delegates and let the process work freely, and as long as I have the opportunity to have a serious and agreed to quickly of televised debates all across this province, and an opportunity to debate issues with the other candidate or anybody else in political life in Newfoundland, I'd be in a heartbeat. But those are my conditions, or I have no interest in it. If I'm going to be left in a ring like I've been for the last 2.5 months, shadow boxing with nobody, I'm not doing that. I'm just not going to do that. But if somebody wants to get in the ring with me and the party is prepared to recognize the issues that I had from the first week of January, and I stated them publicly, and then they ignored them, I'm a candidate. They can't ignore them.
Bill Barry, thanks for coming in this morning. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.